Ladies and gentlemen, one of the hardest truths to accept in life is that not everyone will be interested in you. Whether it's in friendships, relationships, workplaces, or even casual social settings, there will always be people who do not value your presence, your efforts, or your contributions. At first, this realization feels harsh, almost unfair, but it carries an important lesson. It reminds us that our worth is not dependent on other people's interest, approval, or attention. Many people grow up with the belief that if they are kind, hardworking, and genuine, then everyone they meet will automatically like or respect them. But the reality of life is very different. No matter how good you are, there will always be individuals who simply do not feel interested in you. This disinterest could come from differences in personality, values, priorities, or even circumstances beyond your control. Accepting this truth is not about lowering your self-worth, but about understanding that human interactions are complex and cannot always be forced into harmony. It is important to recognize that people's interests are shaped by their personal experiences and perspectives. Someone may not connect with you, not because you lack qualities, but because their own preferences, environment, or mindset make them unable to resonate with who you are. For example, a person might admire intelligence, while another values humor more. Neither perspective is wrong. It simply highlights that not everyone will see or appreciate the same things in you. This is what makes human diversity rich, yet sometimes disappointing when expectations clash with reality. Clinging to the idea that everyone should be interested in you can lead to unnecessary frustration. You might find yourself questioning what is wrong with you, when in truth, nothing is wrong at all. It is simply impossible to please every single person. The world is filled with billions of unique individuals, each drawn to different types of energy, character, and behavior. To expect universal interest is to carry an unrealistic burden that will only hold you back from genuine self-acceptance. Understanding this reality frees you from the exhausting task of constant approval seeking. When you acknowledge that not everyone will be interested in you, you allow yourself to focus on those who truly are. Instead of chasing after uninterested people, you start appreciating the value of authentic connections. This shift in perspective builds resilience, reduces feelings of rejection, and creates space for you to grow into your truest self without the pressure of universal acceptance. Many people fall into the trap of tying their self-worth to how much attention they receive from others. They measure their value through compliments, recognition, or validation, and when these things are missing, they begin to feel inadequate. This is a dangerous mindset because it places your happiness in the hands of others who may not even truly know or understand you. The reality is that your worth exists regardless of whether people choose to acknowledge it or not. External approval is temporary, but self-worth must come from within if it is to last. When your sense of value depends solely on other people, you become vulnerable to their changing moods and opinions. Someone may applaud you today and criticize you tomorrow, not because you have changed, but because their perspective has shifted. If you rely too heavily on their attention, you will find yourself constantly rising and falling with their approval. This instability prevents you from feeling secure and confident in who you are. Building your worth from within shields you from this emotional roller coaster and keeps you grounded, no matter what others think. You are ratherly yourself than others. Their poverty, their helpless, they're helpless, they're helpless. It is also important to understand that people's attention is often shaped by their own circumstances, biases, and personal struggles. If someone overlooks you, it may not mean you lack value, it may simply mean they are too consumed with their own issues to notice. This shows why depending on them for a sense of worth is unreliable. True value cannot be dictated by external factors because it resides in your character, your growth, your integrity, and your potential. These are things that cannot be erased or diminished just because someone fails to recognize them. Developing self-worth without relying on external approval allows you to live with greater confidence and peace. You begin to trust yourself, your journey, and your abilities without waiting for someone else to validate them. This independence does not mean you reject appreciation or recognition. It simply means that your identity and value are not dependent on them. You stand strong in the knowledge that you are enough, regardless of who gives you attention, and that inner assurance becomes a powerful shield against doubt, rejection, and indifference. One of the most common mistakes people make is trying to force connections with those who clearly show no genuine interest in them. They spend time, energy, and emotions reaching out, pleasing, and adjusting themselves in the hope of gaining approval or attention. But no matter how much effort is invested, if the other person has no desire to connect, the outcome will always be discouraging. Chasing after uninterested people becomes a cycle of giving more than you receive, leaving you drained and unfulfilled. The disappointment that follows such efforts can be heavy. Fashion can be accepted. It also creates difficulty. It also creates feelings of unmetness, of unmet hafk, haf. People start asking themselves what they lack or why they are not enough, when in truth, the problem lies not within them, but in chasing after someone who was never willing to reciprocate in the first place. Beyond disappointment, there is also the hidden cost of losing self-respect. When you continually chase people who do not care, you silently send yourself the message that your value is negotiable, that it is okay to settle for less than you deserve. Over time, this can erode confidence and dignity, making you believe you must beg for affection, attention, or recognition. Respecting yourself means knowing when to stop, recognizing when enough effort has been made, and stepping away with your pride intact. Furthermore, when you chase the uninterested, you unintentionally close doors to healthier and more genuine connections. Your focus remains on trying to win over the indifferent, while those who may truly appreciate and value you are overlooked. This not only wastes precious time, but also delays your ability to form relationships that could bring joy, growth, and fulfillment. By letting go of chasing, you protect both your heart and your dignity. making space for the right people to enter your life. When you try to insert yourself into places where you are not valued, you end up fighting a battle that was never meant to be yours. Whether it's in friendships, workplaces, or social circles, forcing yourself into such environments demands constant effort to prove your worth. This effort, however, often goes unnoticed because those around you have already decided not to recognize or appreciate your presence. Instead of being welcomed naturally, you become someone struggling for validation, and that struggle drains both your emotional and mental strength. The energy lost in these spaces is not always visible at first. At the beginning, you may convince yourself that persistence will eventually pay off, that if you work harder, give more, or adapt endlessly, people will finally notice you. But over time, the reality becomes clear. No matter how much you give, the return is minimal. That constant push leaves you exhausted, frustrated, and sometimes even resentful. It's like pouring water into a broken jar. Your effort leaps away, and nothing of value is stored in return. This kind of draining experience also takes a toll on your self-confidence. Every time your efforts go unrecognized, it reinforces the feeling that you are not enough, when in reality the problem lies in the space you are trying to occupy. Instead of uplifting you, such environments chip away at your motivation and spirit. They make you doubt your skills, your value, and even your right to be respected. When people do not value you, no amount of effort will change their perception. And continuing to fight for space only hurts your sense of self. Beyond the personal impact, forcing yourself into these spaces also prevents growth. When your energy is wasted on those who do not care, you miss opportunities to invest that energy where it truly matters, on people, projects, and environments that would actually nurture and value you. Staying in unwelcoming spaces not only drains you, but also keeps you from discovering the doors that lead to fulfillment, recognition, and peace of mind. Recognizing this truth helps you preserve your energy for what truly matters. Walking away when you realize someone is not interested in you is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength and maturity. Many people mistake silence or distance as defeat, when in truth, it is the most powerful response you can give. By choosing to walk away, you declare that your time, energy, and presence are too valuable to be wasted on those who do not appreciate them. This action preserves your dignity and demonstrates that you respect yourself enough not to beg for attention or validation. It takes wisdom to recognize when a situation is no longer worth pursuing. Often, people remain stuck in cycles of trying harder, giving more, and proving themselves endlessly, believing that persistence will eventually change the outcome. But wisdom teaches that true connections should not require you to sacrifice your self-respect. If someone does not respond to your presence with interest or appreciation, walking away becomes the healthiest choice you can make for your emotional well-being. Self-respect grows stronger every time you refuse to force yourself where you are not wanted. Furthermore, walking away opens the door to better opportunities and more meaningful connections. When you free yourself from people who show disinterest, you create space for those who genuinely value your presence. Life often rewards those who let go of what is unworthy by presenting them with relationships and environments where they are truly celebrated. This simple act of choosing yourself over rejection reflects both wisdom and strength, ensuring that your energy is invested where it will bring growth and fulfillment. Real connections thrive in spaces where interest and effort flow naturally between people. When you cling to those who ignore you, you block yourself from experiencing relationships that could be genuine, mutual, and fulfilling. A connection built on one-sided effort is not truly a connection at all. It is dependency masked as loyalty. Only when you release the grip on people who constantly disregard your presence can you create room for authentic bonds to grow. This release is not rejection. It is redirection towards something healthier. Clinging to the uninterested often comes from fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of rejection, or fear of starting over. But holding on to people who do not care only prolongs your pain. It keeps you tied to relationships where you are undervalued, while blinding you to the possibility of finding people who genuinely resonate with your heart and soul. By letting go, you send yourself a message of self-worth, that you deserve connections where interest, care, and attention are naturally present. True connections cannot be forced, and they certainly cannot be sustained by chasing. They emerge from mutual respect, shared values, and reciprocal effort. When both sides are invested, communication feels easy, presence feels appreciated, and effort feels rewarding. On the other hand, when you pour energy into someone who is uninterested, every interaction feels heavy, forced, and draining. The absence of reciprocity is a clear signal that what you seek is not being met. And holding on only delays the joy of discovering authentic bonds. By stopping the chase and releasing those who ignore you, you set yourself free to attract better energy. You become open to meeting people who genuinely see you, hear you, and value your presence. These real connections nourish your spirit, inspire your growth, and remind you that you are worthy of genuine care. The key is not to chase interest, but to recognize it when it comes naturally, and that recognition only happens when you stop clinging to the uninterested and make space for what is real. Many people spend their lives chasing the interest and approval of others, forgetting that the greatest investment they can make is in themselves. When you shift the focus from trying to please others to nurturing your own growth, you begin to realize how powerful self-prioritization can be. Personal growth allows you to discover your strengths, develop your talents, and shape your identity in ways that do not depend on external validation. By dedicating time and energy to yourself, you build a foundation of self-worth that no one can take away. Happiness, too, is something that cannot be sustained if it depends solely on others. When you constantly seek joy from outside sources, you remain vulnerable to disappointment, because people and circumstances change. However, when you learn to create happiness within yourself through passions, self-care, and a healthy mindset, you carry a sense of contentment wherever you go. This inner joy acts as a shield, protecting you from the emptiness that comes when others fail to notice or appreciate you. And Kindra, ka, ka, Kindra, peace is perhaps the most valuable treasure you can give yourself. In a world full of noise, opinions, and pressures, inner peace provides stability. It comes from knowing that you do not have to fight for every ounce of attention or prove your worth in spaces where it is ignored. When you prioritize peace, you learn the art of letting go, of walking away from toxic environments and choosing calmness over chaos. This mindset allows you to protect your mental health and conserve energy for what truly matters. Ultimately, your growth, happiness, and peace form the core of a fulfilling life. They remind you that your value is not tied to the level of interest others show, but to the care and attention you give yourself. By nurturing these three areas, you create a life where your sense of worth is stable and unshakable. The beauty of this approach is that once you are deeply rooted in your own well-being, you naturally attract relationships and opportunities that align with your authentic self. In the end, the truth is simple yet powerful. Not everyone will be interested in you, and that is perfectly fine. Real connections will come when you stop forcing yourself into empty spaces and instead invest your energy in people and environments that recognize your worth. Above all, never forget that your greatest responsibility is to yourself, to nurture your growth, guard your happiness, and preserve your peace. When you learn to do this, you will no longer be shaken by indifference, because you will have discovered the strength of standing tall in your own value.